In this video, we're going to look at applications with quadratic functions. And we're going to look specifically at a maximize, or it could be a minimize problem. So let's think about what we know about our quadratic functions. Quadratic functions are something that's in the form of f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And just keeping in mind that that squared, having that x squared, makes this quadratic. And we also know information about the shape of a quadratic function. Quadratic functions are shaped like parabolas. And the parabola, we can discern the direction of that parabola by looking at that leading coefficient. So if that a value is greater than 0, then that means the parabola opens up like a cup, and at the bottom, at that vertex, we would find the minimum. So it would open up and have a minimum. And if the a value is less than 0, if we have a negative leading coefficient, that means the parabola is reflected down, opens down like a frown, and that vertex, the turning point for the parabola, is going to be a maximum. So when we start seeing these words, maximize or minimize or optimize, find the best, the minimum cost, the quantity of units to maximize our profit, any of those words, that's going to basically mean to us, especially if it's quadratic, that we need to find that vertex, the max or the min. So the one thing we need to know moving into this problem is that x equals negative b over 2a. That's going to give me the x value of either that maximum or minimum, the vertex coordinate on the parabola. So that's what we'll keep in mind as we work through this problem. If we need to maximize or minimize anything, we will be finding, using, interpreting this x equals negative b over 2a. And just as a reminder, this formula is only good when we are dealing with quadratic functions. Now we're going to look at a word problem where we maximize profit. So let's just think first about what profit is. When we're dealing in business, profit is the difference between the revenue and the cost. So the revenue is the money you take in, and then the cost is the money you use to set it up. So let's just say we made a lemonade stand and we bought our supplies and they cost us $10. That would be my cost to set it up. The revenue, I spent all day selling my lemonade. I sold $80 worth of lemonade. All right, that $80 represents my revenue. So what is my profit? What is the money I actually made? That is my revenue, $80, minus my cost, the $10 to set it up. So I actually profited, 80 minus 10 is $70. So what we need to know for any of these problems when we're dealing with profit, profit is equal to revenue subtract the cost. So our word problem here says we are given a revenue and a cost function. C of x will be cost, R of x will be revenue. First, we need to determine the profit function, and then we'll need to find the number of units that must be sold in order to yield maximum profit, as well as we'll need to determine that maximum profit. So part A here, we need that profit function. Remember, as we've just stated, profit, P of x, is going to equal revenue. My revenue function is 20x minus 0.1x squared minus my cost function. And my cost function is 4x plus 2. Now, I want you to pay attention. There's a minus here. You should all notice that I used parentheses. Had I not used those parentheses to group the cost function together, I might only subtract 4x and add 2. But we're subtracting all of the cost function. right? And so what that means is that minus will apply to both of those terms in my cost function. So profit equals revenue minus cost. That is P of X equals 20X minus 0.1X squared minus 4X minus 2. Forgetting to distribute that negative and having the minus 2, I would expect a lot of students to maybe make that mistake and write a plus 2 here. So I'm pointing it out, so hopefully it does not end up being a problem that you incur or a mistake that you make. So simplifying this, I have negative 0.1 x squared, 20 take away 4, that is positive 16x minus 2. So you see here I have my profit function. So the profit for x units is calculated using this formula, negative 0.1 x squared plus 16x minus 2. So if we know how many x units we are selling, then we can determine the profit. So part B here, we need to find the number of units that must be sold in order to yield a maximum profit. And then once we've done that, we will look at determining what the maximum profit is. So the first thing we're going to do is to find that number of units. And because we see the word maximum, that lets me know that the max or min value would be occurring at the vertex. And looking at that leading coefficient, my A value is negative or less than 0. So that means I do have a parabola that opens down. So that maximum is going to occur at the vertex. Of course, we know our vertex formula. We know that we're going to use x equals negative b over 2a. So here, let's set that up. We've got x equals negative b over 2a. This is our second part. So my b value is 16. So I have negative 16 over 2 times my a value is negative 0.1. You do need to make sure that your profit function is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, so that you can correctly identify your a, b, and c coefficients. Simplifying this, that's going to give me positive 16, well, I have negative 16 over negative 0.2, which is positive 80. So 80 represents an x value, and x, within the context of our problem, is the quantity of units. Okay, so we have to sell 80 units to maximize our profit. And then for the third portion here, if we look at determining that maximum profit, that would be evaluating the profit function when x equals 80. So I have P of 80 is negative 0.1 times 80 squared plus 16 times 80 minus 2. So simplifying that, just plug that right into your calculator. You're going to end up with 638. So what this means is that the maximum profit is found to be $638 when 80 units are sold. So that will conclude this video, and the main idea that I want you to all take away is that if you have a word problem and they ask you to maximize, or if the word problem says minimize, that means in this class you're going to have a quadratic function, and you can find that vertex by calculating the x value, negative b over 2a. So you may see some word problems where you have to develop a function, and then once you have the function, you'll run through these steps to find where the maximum occurs and what the maximum value is. Remember, the maximum is the output or the y value, and it occurs at x, the input. As always, feel free to reach out and contact me if you have any questions or concerns. Have a great day.